welcome Chris Jordan. So I'm going to give it a little brief background really quick. Chris Jordan is a native of Baton Rouge, the CEO and founder of Omnidek. Chris has been in the technology sector for over 13 years, has successfully developed and executed 2 multinational licensing agreements, most notably with Sage and accounting software. Chris's expertise in product market placement, product design, fundraising, and path to market strategies are things that we'll focus on today, and things we're going to hopefully hear some stories on. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. These are weird circumstances. We have come here with our social spacing. We're going to be recording for Monday's event. Given everything that's going on, first and foremost, how you holding up, man?
We're doing good. We, started the week, we went virtual. So for us, we usually have everybody's together, and we've got a really good kind of community, family vibe at our company. Everybody really cares about each other. And so it's kind of been a little disruptive a bit because we have a morning stand-up meeting, and we all have a lot of camaraderie in the office. And so we've replaced that with Microsoft Teams, and we still have camaraderie. It's just virtual camaraderie now.
Right.
And but we're doing our part, to kind of hedge that. And then I've had to I made a video for our shareholders just to kind of keep them in the loop on what we're doing. And we're kind of like everybody else. We're just kind of seeing. Hopefully this is a 2-week thing, 3-week thing, but then making preparations if it's not.
If it's longer, absolutely. Yeah. And so before this, all 14 of your team members in Louisiana in an office with you. Anyone out of state or virtual or remote?
No,
okay.
we are homegrown.
Yeah.
I would say everybody's an LSU fan, but that's a lie. But for the most part, we've always been tempted to go and outsource development, and part of the deal is I'm not a developer, so I need to have a really close communication on, hey, I think this button should do this or whatever.
Right.
And so that wasn't going to be good across oceans at different parts at night and whatnot. So, but our team is really great. I'd put them up against any team in Silicon Valley on kind of their experience, but also what they've pulled off with Omnidek.
I love it. So I want to get into the team more a little later on. Let me ask, how's the team doing? Everybody okay? Safe,
Yeah.
Okay.
They're probably enjoying working from home a little bit.
Yeah, I bet.
And so usually there's a couple of stragglers that are 5-10 minutes late for our stand-up meeting.
Yeah.
So you don't have that excuse.
Right.
Traffic wasn't too bad for the teams meeting, but
absolutely.
No, we're doing good, and we have a pretty well run organization too. We have a lot of repetitive kind of reporting through managerial reporting back to us. So we've got a pretty good pulse on what's going on in the projects, and kind of keeps everybody heads down, which helps right now for sure.
Yeah, well, we'll keep it up. Look, this is going to be a challenge, I think, for so many. It's interesting. I've had a few calls with people this week who downloaded Zoom for the first time. And they're telling me, they said, I told my wife I'm about to FaceTime or something with someone. I'm like, okay, this is great. Being a already remote team, it's I'll say I've learned more this week than I have in the last year about remote work because everyone is posting about it. So even those that are remote, I think we're learning something too. So let me kind of get into that background. Homegrown here in Baton Rouge, but let's just take a step back for a moment. Who is Chris Jordan before Omnidek? Where did that story start?
Yeah, so I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. Let me start with that. So I was always going to play professional golf. That was what I wanted to do, and spent my whole life kind of preparing for that. And some unfortunate events with an injury, and not being a rich person, you only get a very small window, and wasn't able to execute on that. So I kind of found myself, I guess 22, 23, knowing I didn't want to give lessons for the rest of my life, and wanted to do something special and impactful, and have all this competitive juices from being in sports all my life. The only outlet really for that I was attracted to was entrepreneurship. And because it was something that you could, as hard as you worked, you had a direct impact on how successful you could be.
Absolutely.
And so the disadvantage of that, unlike Mark Zuckerberg, right, who could actually code in the middle of the night, I can't do anything other than try to find people that are smarter than me and put them together. And so that's kind of how we started. I started selling software at first to kind of get in the market. got tired of making other people rich, and then said, I want to get into the industry. And
take us in a little deeper. This is what year is this? This is you're still in your early 20s?
Yeah, so I
started selling?
Yeah, so I've got a funny story about that. The reason I got out of the golf business is because the country club I was at went out of business. And you're talking about the middle of the recession, so into 2008, 2009. And I was in a windowless room, cold calling construction companies in the middle of the recession. And a lot of, especially if you're young, you don't remember what that's like. But every company was just gradually going out of business, especially in construction. So they weren't spending any money. And here I am trying to sell a pretty large ticket item to scared companies that didn't want to make a decision. And that was one of the biggest blessings that I had, because I was able to hear all the objection. I must have been told no, 10,000 times in a couple of years. But whenever you hear no and you hear why people are what they're really looking for, why they're not making decisions, you really understand how transactions work, right? How you move cash from one entity to another.
Because it's easy selling in an optimistic environment where everyone has that free cash flow, and it's a little easier, right? Because people can make decisions.
Sure.
But you're trying to make decisions in a very difficult time,
and you're justifying the entire time. Like, why do I need to make this environment when the economy is great and everybody's got money? They're spending money because they like it or whatever else. You're trying to really justify a return on investment. And software is notorious. That's usually why they're buying technology, is because they have some problem and there's a cost associated to it. So that's really kind of how we got started. And then I think there was a trade show that I went to, and if you've ever been to a trade show, there's a bunch of vendors, right?
Sure.
Usually they're technology vendors. And I'm sitting there and I'm kind of, 23, 24, and looking at, there's 15 companies that do time apps where you put your timesheet in. And there's another 3 or 4 that do project management, and another 3 or 4 that do service work. And you start looking at it, and it's like, man, it's 6 pieces of information, and then somebody needs to look at it and approve it, and then there's some reporting. There's a kind of a universal undercurrent that we just observed from that. I said, man, if somebody could ever figure out how to build an application where it didn't matter what information you were gathering, it was more about the assembly line of all your entire team inside of a single application affecting work process. That's what Henry Ford and the assembly line, right? It's just that applied to business.
Yeah.
So that's really kind of where Omnidek came from.
So one that could apply to any business.
Any business, any market,
So you're not really looking to say, my feature is a timesheet, my feature is this reporting. No, you're just saying whatever your process is, plug it in. Is that a good understanding of it?
Where I think a lot of companies are in regards to technology is that they're buying technology now for the sake of having technology.
Yeah.
And once you buy one app that does one thing and it starts and stops, there's now a gap where there's nothing. So you got to go buy something else. And it's kind of this whack-a-mole philosophy of buying technology. Whereas, if you kind of dumb it down to, 6 pieces of information, your manager needs to look at it and it needs to go somewhere, then it kind of makes all the sense in the world, because then you get your entire team. They're not bouncing between 7 or 8 different business apps trying to approve something or review something. They're actually all in one ecosystem. Yeah. And big companies do this in an intranet portal, but they spent $3-4 million to do it. Okay. So that's usually the problem.
So now we're in Omnidek. This is you found Omnidek, but so in that moment you're at this trade show, you're seeing all these. Where did the idea begin to form? Because we sometimes can observe other people's problems, but then sometimes we're sitting there banging our head on the computer. Was it just the trade show that started to get the wheels turning, or did you have to deal with any of it on your end when you were selling?
No, I think that the trade show was really the kind of defining moment for me. Yeah. And then so where I kind of pivoted directly into that is, okay, I really want to take the plunge and go get into the tech business, and I want to start my own thing. And not being a developer, and when I start talking about not being a Zuckerberg, I can't write anything. So you have to create something. Well, those people have to get paid, right? So you can't start with nothing. I don't have that luxury. So one of the things that we did is that, my skill set's being able to sell. So we did kind of to raise the first initial slug of cash. We took this, hey, here's what we're building, this forms tool with some workflow and whatever else. And I went to a lot of the customers that I'd already had relationships with, and I said, listen, this thing's going to be about $20,000 when we're done. I want you to buy it. I'm going to give it to you for 10, but you got to give me $5,000 up front before I write it, and then $5,000 when I deliver it in 6 months, right? So what I did that about 40 or 50 customers. So I raised about $200,000 to get started, right? And then from there, and I'd be lying if I said, it was just smooth sailing after after that.
Yeah.
No, it was a disaster once we delivered it, because you're writing it with a junior developer, and you're just kind of, it's not Salesforce.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, and now the pressure's on. You have 50 companies who are like, my 5K sitting over there. What is it doing?
When's the deliverable?
Yeah.
So,
did you have a hard delivery day? Like, what was that experience? Okay.
Yeah, we had a hard delivery date that we missed, of course. But the whole deal is that it's just progress.
Okay.
I mean, you're moving. At no point in time were we misleading anybody. It's just, hey, there's more features we're putting in. The first version we put out there had issues with it, so we had to shore it up before we rolled this other company out. And this is what, if you were going to start a company with nothing, this is just kind of part and parcel of what it is.
Interesting.
But what that was able to do for us was to prove market demand and a price point that was acceptable.
Absolutely.
Right? So we were actually, and I think this is a big thing for entrepreneurs, is that if you're raising $50,000 in cash and you're trying to build your prototype or your application, you're not building your end-all application. You're building the prototype.
Sure.
Like, don't think you're building it, because if you took something you wrote for $50,000 into Silicon Valley, they would laugh at it.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So I think as long as you know that, hey, I'm just proving this thing out. We're trying to figure out if it's a thing, and we had that proof that, hey, this is a thing. Companies want it, and then from there we created enough of a swell to where that opened up the venture capital lines, and that's where we've been successful now. Right, we've raised over $2.5 million in seed round to trash.
That's awesome.
Trash the old version and rewrite the new one.
You're actually someone I've actually spoken about you before to other entrepreneurs that I've met with and at these Startup Grind events. You're one of the few people that have, to what we can see publicly, have raised a good amount of capital here in the state.
Sure.
But I think it's fair to say that capital for technology companies isn't so readily available, and if it is, the process and the access isn't like some of these other tech hubs. So we have these sometimes barriers. What was one of the problems, or the main one for you when you were trying to go about raising money here?
So that's a big. There's a bunch to unpack.
Yeah.
So let's talk about just raising capital in general.
Okay.
So if I was going to say what's the common theme of entrepreneurs here, not the investors, the entrepreneurs, is that they would be the first one to tell you, and if you'll listen to them, they'll talk your ear off about they haven't been able to raise capital, there's no access to capital, whatever else. And one of the things that my investors have taught me, not trying to teach me, but just being in the Shark Tank and getting hammered, is the fact that they don't care about what the product is. They don't care about your vision. They don't care about any of that. They may put that on their website, but they don't. They want their return. And I've learned what a fiduciary responsibility is. Right? And the only thing that's important to them is management. And they want to write you one check, and they don't want to write you another one. Right? And I've had to learn that because I've had people write me multiple checks because we had to, right? And what the thing that the biggest lesson I've learned is that the CEO raises the money, right? That's the best lesson that I could say. The CEO raises the money. So if you're in the middle of a pitch and you're pitching to a VC and they talk about how much money you've raised, and you go through a long dissertation about the troubles that you've had, or the issues, the absence of capital, whatever else. Appreciate. They know that Jim Bernhardt raised $2 billion. He lives here on Highland Road. There's a guy that owns 600 Raising Cane's. He lives here in Baton Rouge, right? So it's not like there's no money here.
Right.
It speaks more to you as an entrepreneur.
If you can.
Yeah, if you can, right?
Okay.
And money is stubborn, right? This is a good analogy. If you were at a hot air balloon race, okay, and you had a blue hot air balloon laying on the ground, it was a big tall one and skinny, and this one's red and it's short and fat. Which one would you want?
The hot air balloon?
Which
not the short and fat one.
You'd want the one in the air.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's full of hot air.
Yeah.
Right? The other ones are tarps laying on the ground.
Yeah.
And what the funny thing about money is it's stubborn. It doesn't matter where it comes from. It can be old lady money or grandma's money. It can be mattress money. It can be across 31 shareholders like it is with us. But money makes an idea a thing, right?
Absolutely.
Hot air makes a hot air balloon a thing, right? And until you get to that point, it's just a hobby. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. What's the value of using the shares that you have, the equity within your company to build a team, to bring on employees, and Yeah, and if you've done it, it seems like you have. What's been your experience with it?
Yeah, so I think we have like a 22% option pool, which is pretty big.
Yeah.
Considering, but I mean, the cynical thing about it is that it does kind of put handcuffs on somebody. That hey, look, you're a value add to us. We don't want you to go anywhere.
Yeah.
We want to reward you with stock, but you got to vest them as you're here.
Yeah.
That's kind of the legal reason, or not illegal, but that's why you do it, professionally. But I've always looked at this because I couldn't do it on my own. I wanted to share the value, right? And those guys aren't in the board meetings, right?
Yeah.
And so they can't fight for their equity, So it's my job to do that for them. And that's what, these guys, I talk to them about my experiences at board meetings. I talk to them about where we're headed.
Yeah.
And because a couple of things are important, I think, as a CEO, is that they have to trust you. They have to trust that you're out there working for them on their behalf. It's also a good cop, bad cop thing when the board's the bad guy and you're the good guy.
Yeah.
But you're trying your hardest to, prove to them that, hey, we're doing this together. We are a family. I'm not just saying that so you'll work hard.
Yeah.
I'm saying that because you guys are my brothers and sisters, and we're trying to pull something off special here. And this is what I think. I believe, and this is me making a stupid comment, but I believe we are potentially the most valuable software company to ever exist.
Okay.
I know I'm saying that.
Explain it, yeah.
So the reason companies become super valuable,
and
Microsoft is an example of this, is they have super high lifetime value of the customer.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do they do that, right? Well, you have to have multiple reasons that they're using the platform.
Yeah.
So you're not at the mercy. Like if I'm just using Trello for task management, or Skype, or Teams, for example, and Slack comes out with a new feature. Oh, well, screw Teams. I'm just going to move it to Slack, right? Or whatever. So Omnidek, I can eliminate timesheets, expense reports, your project management system, your service management system, your intranet portal, which you don't have, your file management system, right? So at some point in time, and Teams and whatever you're using to chat, so at some point in time, you may have eliminated 50% of the software as a service that you had. Well, you can't go back that way. It's very difficult when you've eliminated 3 or 4 apps, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first piece of it. The second piece is that if you commit to the intranet portal where everything in your company is an Omnidek form, you are creating a file system. We are the file management system, which is where Microsoft is today.
Yeah.
I don't need Microsoft. We believe we're the second mover to Microsoft because just by filling out forms, you're creating your document management.
Yeah.
It's just not a document. It's a data point. And where we see elements of that, where Microsoft is out of position here, and this is why we think Omnidek can potentially be the second mover to Microsoft Office, is think about electronic medical records and finance tech. You would think Microsoft with 100% market share would be all over those industries, and they're nowhere to be found.
In what way? What do you mean?
They're file-based structure.
Okay.
Even SharePoint's a file sitting on a web server, right? In data, if you're looking for, think about like EMR, electronic medical records. You've got Watson, who's machine learning all the data that's being gathered through all of these visits so they can see trends for cancer identification, whatever else. You can't do that with a PDF with Dr. Scribble Scratch on it. Right? So guess what? They got off of Microsoft under government mandate, and now they're in data form.
Okay.
They call it smart data content management.
Yeah.
Well, we create that. You don't know you're doing it. You're just building forms.
From day one.
From day one.
Interesting.
So in 90 days, I can eliminate the value of Microsoft files sitting on a server.
Gotcha.
There's no attachments, there's no email, there's none of that. So that's why when we start talking about you're checking the boxes, out in front, portals, new frontier, cheaper, faster, can deliver in a minute. We're creating a new version of content management, and we have viral product awareness. When you start checking those boxes, you start feeling the fact that, man, a couple $100 and a couple customers in an area buying Omnidek and building that, and you're just creating awareness of it. We think it can run, and because it's a form, it can go. We have clients that are in the finance, Benner's Community College. Different industries. It doesn't matter because they have forms today. It's an easy migration at first.
So you're not picking a niche. This is you then. So essentially, given all this experience that you've had, everywhere from doing something you didn't like to having to give up on your dream and changing and being where you are now. Is there something that you would leave with entrepreneurs, especially let's even center it to entrepreneurs here in Baton Rouge? Because one of the reasons I even started Startup Grind is because I have a belief that there's potential here. We want to do everything in our power to stay here, but we're only as strong as the community around us. I'm probably a little too passionate sometimes about people. I don't care what their ideas. I'm just try it. I want to push them along. I want to try to help, drive that in some way. And and you're someone they look up to as well. Thoughts? Is there something that you think here in Baton Rouge we could learn from?
Yeah. So entrepreneurs here have to be very careful to not handicap their vision based upon the dollars available to them. And this is a very important thing that I had to learn. And if you were to go look in Silicon Valley, they'll dream up whatever the hell they want. And they'll go in there and they've got to get a big board member who came from Facebook or Google or whatever, and they'll go raise $50 million. And guess what? They'll be able to spend 2 years in development and build it out, right? And they have confidence in the management team to pull it off, and that's how they go build these massive ass companies, right? I mean, Uber was, that was, hey, we're never going to make money, right? But let's raise $20 billion and see what happens, right? So if you're not careful here, you're going to end up, you can get your vision stifled based off of what you can do with dollars available. And what I've always tried to do is ask, anytime there was a major decision point in our couple of years here, it was always, would I be making this decision if I had unlimited dollars? And that's always been a double check for me. Am I making a good decision or a cheap person decision?
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's been times where I said, I can't make this decision. I have to go raise money. And then I can make that decision. Our pivot, this was an absolute pivot, and it was 4 months after I got that $900,000 check. 4 months.
Wow.
Literally the second board meeting was me talking about, hey, I need more money. That proved to be the best decision I ever made, and it's because I was sitting in a meeting looking at server timeouts because we had started to gain traction. And I said, this is going to be hell on earth if we don't fix it now.